Today, I'm removing this worn out leather seat cover, repairing the seat foam, and installing a new cover. Let's get into it. Now I have to get this seat out of the truck and onto the bench. So I'm gonna remove this WeatherTech floor mat. After removing the floor mat, I'm gonna move on to actually removing the seat, which involves removing these covers to expose the bolts. Now while the battery is still connected, I'm gonna go ahead and remove these front two bolts so that I can then move the seat all the way forward for proper access to the rear two bolts. And these are a 14 millimeter. And my 12 volt impact would actually not remove this, so I'm gonna use my ratchet. There we go. And now moving to the rear two bolts, you can see I moved that seat forward so I have a lot of access to this rear bolt. And all four bolts are now removed. And before I disconnect the battery, I'm gonna move this seat into kind of a middle position, maybe something like that. Now, I don't know if this really matters. I just don't wanna get it out of the vehicle onto the bench only to find out that it's too far forward or too far back. So middle position, I think, is a safe spot. Now, I'm definitely going to be disconnecting this battery. That was a little shim that I had that fell out there. Definitely disconnecting the battery because this vehicle does have side airbags that are in the seat here. And so there's some harnesses I'm gonna be disconnecting here. I don't want to interrupt or affect anything. I'm really hoping that simply by disconnecting the battery before I disconnect any of the electrical connections here is okay. All right, with all four bolts removed and the battery disconnected, can I just lift up on this seat? Yes, I can. And oh my gosh, look how dirty that is. Wow. This is gonna take a lot of cleaning. And yes, I plan on removing this carpet and shampooing it. And if that isn't good enough, I'm gonna replace it. All right, in terms of electrical, you can see this one main wire loom here. And out of the end of it right here, we have 1, 2, 3 different connections we have to remove. I believe this yellow one is for the airbag, which is why we need to make sure that our battery is disconnected before we touch that. Okay, I'll start with this big white connection here. There we go. Moving on to the black one here. Okay, that one was pretty easy. Battery is disconnected. There we go. Okay. Seat on bench. And out here amongst my video lights, you can really see the condition that it's in. The worst of it is really here on the door side where you get in and out of the vehicle. You can see up here, it's pretty cracked and dirty. This area is worn quite a bit. There's some other cracks and things starting to happen up here. And there's even a pretty big crack and opening right here. Now that being said, today's focus is actually gonna be on the seat bottom here, where we do have lots of cracks. It's pretty dirty. We also have completely failing and cracked and dirty leather right here, as well as some big tears in the side here. And this is not leather, this is actually some kind of vinyl. Now here is the actual seat cover I purchased. You can see it looks really good. It looks like it's sewn well. All the stitching and everything looks really nice. It's nice and bright, clean gray leather, only it's actually not leather. Oddly enough, as great as the aftermarket is for these Toyota 4Runners, this is a 4th gen, I couldn't find an affordable version of a seat bottom that was all leather. All I could find was this look-alike leather. I think they call it microfiber something rather. I was trying to do some research into that, and apparently there is like leather infused in this, but it's not actually leather. Regardless, it was cheap enough that I felt like I could give it a shot. I bought these on Amazon. I will put a link down in the description below. You can see that the color doesn't match exactly. This was the gray. You can see the color of the seat gray is a lot darker. But again, that price was low enough that I decided to try it. And I'm just hoping that this fits tight enough, hoping that it fits like factory. And if it does, I think it's gonna be good enough for me. In order to remove this leather seat bottom, we're gonna first have to remove all the trim off of the seat. And for me, that's gonna start with looking around for the screws that hold this trim on, and there's one right there. And picking the seat up, we can see there's another screw right in there. This whole process is, of course, a delicate game of don't break stuff. So I just wanted to show you with things like these switches here, they just kind of pop off. And if you can see those ridges there, this clip right here slips around those ridges to hold this piece in. So just be very careful when removing this stuff. Use proper trim removal tools. And it's the same situation for this other button where we just have ridges on these two pieces here and clips that hold everything together. You do have to take those off because you can see there are a couple of screws here. And with those two screws removed, you can see I now have a lot more play in the side panel here. And looking under the panel here, you can see our electrical connector right there. It might simply be a press. There we go. Now this whole panel is free. There we go. The whole side panel is now free. All right, well, let's try to take an account for the condition of this thing. And you can see there's a clip here. These clips are supposed to kind of fold in and clip on to these metal brackets. This has come loose over time, which obviously is kind of normal. Let's see here. Is there a screw? There is a screw. Okay, so don't remove that until you get the screw. Screws out. Yep, and this comes out. All right, I got the piece out. So I'm going to stick my hand underneath the frame here, see if I can. Yep, there we go. Clips here. There we go. Fairly easy to remove. It's just getting your fingers up in there. Once you do, they just kind of come off. We have another plastic clip right here. We have our switch control panel. I don't want to mess with that just yet. I don't know if I have to actually remove that. And it looks like I'm just going to work this plastic clip out. There we go. So I'm sliding my hand back here and just removing that. And it looks like you can see that foam. Wow. This thing is kind of degraded. All right, I'm gonna roll this cover up. You can't just go ripping this thing out, because as I move this foam down, you can see that little gold ring down there, brass in color, I guess. That little ring right there, and that one there. Those are really what attaches the seat cover to the foam. You can see there's a metal bar there, and those rings go around that metal bar. So we're gonna have to cut these out. And because of that, we're gonna need a pair of hog ring pliers, and this is what they look like. There's a little slot in there that holds a hog ring, and this is what hog rings look like. They use these for a variety of things, so there's different sizes, different coatings on them, but these ones I got at my local Tractor Supply. You can see these ones say D-style upholstery rings. So these are specifically made for upholstery situations like we have now. It's 100 count, and this whole thing costs a little over $5. And here's what just one of them looks like. And to put them in the pliers, we simply put it right in the slot there, and then we're just going to crimp it closed, kind of like that. So you can see what that does. It crimps this thing all the way shut. There's sharp ends here so it can get through material, and this is nice and tight. This is going to do the job to essentially stitch something to something else. And that again is what we're seeing down here. Okay, so let's see how hard these are to actually cut. Oh, yep, that was pretty difficult, but I got it cut, and now that side of the rod is free. I'll do the same to this one here. Here we go. Definitely two hands to do that. Make sure you grab both pieces. We want all of this out of there. So this is the factory hog ring, and this is the one we're going to be using to replace it. I have the seat flipped over on its side again because I wanted to show you this piece that kind of comes through the seat bottom. This is from the seat bottom. It wraps underneath the back here, and it wraps all the way around and is held on with these little black clips right here. So we're going to see how hard or easy it is to remove these. It looks like these black clips actually clip on to this metal wire kind of suspension system right here. Here's a good example of that right there. You can see that plastic is just wrapped around that. So how do we get that off? Okay, so I think just to get those off, yep, we're just gonna push them forward. They just loop around. After removing this wire here so that I could route it through this hole, we are now officially good to continue removing this seat bottom. All right, I do think that I'm down to one last D-ring, hog ring, whatever you want to call it. Yep, I can see it right down there. Got it. But now, yes, yes, yes. Okay, I think there's actually a wire back here that's connected to this seat warmer. Well, I don't know if it's glued on. It looks like I can just peel it right off. But they do have these little plastic, it's kind of like the same thing that they connect a tag to a piece of clothing. So those will be just real easy to just clip that off, and then that should be able to pull right off of there. Nice. Okay, last one. Nice. Look at that. All right, with the old seat cover off, everything cleaned up, I now relayed this heat pad exactly where it was originally, though of course this was attached to the actual seat cover, not the seat foam, but I'm gonna try to attach it to the seat foam here and leave it here, you know, hoping that I can get this new seat cover on this foam without this moving too much. And now the only other issue I see is the fact that this side of the foam is definitely softer, you know, a lot more deteriorated. It feels better up here in the front. It's just this section here where you get in and out with all of your body weight. And you can see it's definitely kind of crumbling and deteriorated there. I vacuumed up the most of the crumbling parts as I could. I'm really wondering if I need to do something about this or if I can just leave it. Well, at this point, I thought I was gonna go ahead and slip that new cover on, get it fitted and call it a day. But I think what I'm first gonna do, this door side is kind of chewed up over here. So I wanna see if there's some way that I could attempt to fix it. The only problem is I have this foam, which is like a memory foam. I feel like it's maybe a low to medium density foam, and it feels nice. Like it's very nice feeling foam. I feel like this is some high quality stuff, but it's definitely not the same foam that the seat's made out of. But I'm wondering if I can get a clean cut and then just kind of replace it with this. I'm wondering if that will work. I picked up some of this 3M Super 77 multi-purpose adhesive. I've never used this kind of stuff before, and I've never done seat repair like this before either, so I'm just doing the best I can. After watching a bunch of videos regarding seat repair like this, it seems that we need to find all of these broken pieces and cracks and kind of glue them all back together. So that's the purpose of this. If I pick up this foam pad and look underneath, we do have a pretty big crack that runs lengthwise, and I feel like we can glue that back together pretty easily. Okay, I'm about to spray this glue. It smells, I don't want to breathe it. I don't want to breathe particles in, hence the mask. I don't want this stuff getting in my eyes, hence the goggles. I don't even want it getting on my skin, hence the gloves. I also have a fan on in the distance to blow air by me so that it's not gonna permeate where I'm at. So I am being overly cautious about it, but you know, that's just me. I also put an old moving blanket over the actual back of the seat in case there's some kind of overspray of this glue. Now it says you have to let it dry for at least 30 seconds, all the way up to like 15 minutes. It basically has to be tacky to where when you touch it, it's sticky, but it doesn't actually transfer to your skin. Okay, so this back piece right here, if I touch it, yeah, I think we can glue these two together. Wow, look at that. That's literally seamless. That looks great. Feeling inside of this crack where I just sprayed that stuff, it's not even really coming off on my glove here. So I'm gonna go ahead and press this together as well. Nice. All right, so on this metal frame right here, you can see they glued some kind of material here. I ripped off all the loose stuff already. I'm gonna spray this with glue and then glue some material back on here. All right, checking the tackiness. It's tacky, it's not coming off on my glove, so I think we're good to go. Same thing on this piece of material here. Stick it. I'm just gonna wrap it down and around. I can cut off the excess. There's a sharp piece of metal on the inside here, which I believe that's what they're trying to cover up. So that looks great. Perfect. Well, so far I'm loving this 3M Super 77. It seems like it works really good. The smell is pretty bad, but the product itself works really good. This was the crack that I fixed, and you can see it looks like new. There's no crack there at all. And of course I just added this new material here to the frame of the seat. So we got all that stuff fixed, and now I have to deal with this chewed up area here. I feel like the only real way is just to cut this stuff out. I mean, it's already gone anyway. Try to add in some of this memory foam. Well, I already have this cut section here. Maybe this part will be enough. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this out. Something like that. Got that little piece out. I'm trying to be non-destructive here. I mean, the only stuff I cut off was stuff that was already chewed up and doing nothing anyway. So what I'm really trying to do is leave as much of the original pad as possible and add to it. Got a little bit of an outline. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough, because look at this. The bottom of this pad sits on the metal frame. There's nothing there to support it. First of all, look at that. Now look at that. I think that's great. I think that's gonna do exactly what I need it to do. Okay, so look at that. I'll pull it out. You can see the difference. Ready? See how much less we have there? If I just glue this, glue that, let it get tacky, stick this all up in there, I think we could be in business here, guys. See if we're tacky. We are. So on my piece here, I sprayed not only the top, I sprayed the side and the face there. Just get this in there like that. Just like that. Yep. Just like that. Might get this corner all stuck together too. The seat, by the way, I have the cushion pulled forward. That's why it doesn't look like it's fitting right. Well, I've been messing around with a little piece of fabric. I feel like I want to add something to this here. You can see how it's starting to deteriorate, and it does feel a little bit squishy here versus what it feels like up front here and all this other foam. It's nice and firm. This is the main part you get in and out. So I thought, you know what, why don't I add that same material here? I've been trying to make this kind of fit. I drew it out with a marker and cut it to shape. The seat's sitting in there nice right now, guys. This is the foam all the way back where it's supposed to be. I have my fabric sprayed here. I also have the seat sprayed. The purpose was to cover this up and give it even more support. I think that's gonna work out quite nicely. Man, this glue is incredible. Some reinforcement there. Yeah, that looks good. We have everything now like one solid piece. And you can see this kind of comes around and protects and gives a little more support for the kind of failing foam in this section here, where I'm gonna be getting in and out of the vehicle over and over and over. So I think that's gonna work out really, really nicely. All right, one last thing here. Underneath the pad, you can see the white material they have already under that foam, and you can see the material I just added. Now, the thing is this material, for some reason, sticks really well without any glue to that white material under the foam. And I just felt like, because we're sitting on this metal frame here, I did see, because of this metal frame, that white material had some tearing under here. So I felt like just adding this extra material under here is definitely gonna help this to have a longer life. So I think we're about done with all of our modifications here. The seat definitely is a lot stronger and in a lot better situation than it was before. I think that new cover is going to fit just fine over this. I do feel like with my extra memory foam there that this is going to be nice and supported compared to what it was before. I have extra material down here on the metal frame, so we're not going to have any issues with this tearing into that. So for a 2005 seat that's never been touched before, why don't we get that cover on? Also, I laid out this heating pad again. You can see this side on the door side is pretty chewed up. I'm gonna try to see if I can get the cover on with this just sitting here on the pad, because if you remember, this was actually attached to the cover from the factory. The only thing I can do is try it and see what happens. We'll see. We'll see how hard it is to get this thing on. It may be really easy. Okay, here's the new seat cover. It's flipped over upside down, of course. I wanted to show you these blue, I think these things are called listing, whereas on the original factory one, this was a metal rod. Apparently now they are these kind of blue plastic rods, which is fine. This tail here, I'm gonna push this through. Okay, you can see the seam right here, I feel like it needs to be even farther back. So I'm just gonna have to work that back even farther, because that's what's gonna determine where all these other seams, you know, line up here, which this looks like it's okay, but you can see it's a little bit forward. Yeah, this definitely has to go back a little farther. Well, my first ever hog ring, I hope you can see that. I think this is the hardest one here, and it all worked out. I was able to get it around the listing bars, both of them, and yeah, it's fully secure. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this hog ring. You can see the hog ring pliers here. These are from Harbor Freight, by the way. So that hog ring kind of just sits there. Probably want it as far up as possible. And these are spring loaded as well, so that's not gonna open up and fall out. They made these so that, you know, it'll hold that hog ring if you're not even putting pressure on these. So this is pretty cool. Now, of course, it's gonna be extremely difficult to show you this process because it's so deep down in there. The blue listing, the blue plastic with the metal bar there. Now I'm just gonna get it around both of them and squeeze. Hopefully I just got that. Well, it is so incredibly difficult to show you guys this, but There it is. You can see the metal bar and the plastic, and they are secured. I now have 3 hog rings on this inner side, and I did the furthest one back on the door side. I just got to know where that bar is. It's right there. Okay. I think I can get this. One of the big tricks too is trying not to mess up this heating element. Okay. Yes. Okay, that one's good. Okay, update. I have all 3 of the hog rings on this side. I have all 3 of the hog rings here, and there's 3 hog rings here. And I can tell you right now that this pad that's completely done here, although the clips on the very back aren't secured, this is nice and tight. It looks nice. It feels nice. It's definitely tight. I like that. Looking at the inside here at the heating element, I'm just trying to place these kind of where they went from the factory. This one, because of the type of listing, I believe it was a little bit different, being that it was originally stuck to the factory cover. And the way they did it was this listing wire kind of was underneath it. But now what's happening is this listing wire is actually pushing the heating element down into the hole. So it's shortened it up a little bit. It's still gonna lay flat and work just fine, as long as I didn't break one of these. But you can see where these indentions were from before, where this was way up here, but we've kind of sucked some of that slack down into that little pocket down there. Seeing a little bit of a kind of a bunch up right there. I feel like that has something to do with the sewing. Then again, this isn't completely tight yet, so far it's looking good. We have a clip down here that was really easy to put on, another clip right under here that was really easy to put on. I haven't had to cut any holes yet. The inner side fits pretty good. There was a little clip, really easy to put on. Everything is nice and tight. Okay, another update here. I have this front kind of plastic piece that folds in all along the frame, the whole front of the frame. And let me tell you, that just took me about 45 minutes to get done because it was so incredibly hard. Wow, that was not fun, but it is done. So you can see this notch here, which seems pretty simple, that it has to clip onto the flat piece of metal frame here. However, not only is it flipped out this way, but it also is just in a different, it's hard to explain, it's a different formation. And so what you got to do is you got to bend it in, but also create this arc. And then, I don't know, unfortunately I have to do the passenger seat now, but I think it'll go a little bit easier now that I've got the driver's seat down. We do have a little bit of slack here. You can see this little clip right here is just a simple little clip that slides on there. But there is all of this plastic that's going to be covering a lot of the sides, so I think I can work some of that slack out of there. Looking on the other side here, this is towards the inside of the vehicle. Same thing. I mean, this was a bear to get done. Wow. You can see there's a little bit of slack here as well. You know, the center armrest is going to be here and everything, so that's really not going to be shown. So I am curious about this though, how that's going to be hidden or why that's like that. Feel like I have everything, you know, pulled exactly where it needs to be, but I do have to admit that looks really, really good. From what we started with, that crusty old seat that was torn everywhere, this looks amazing. And if we focus over here on the door side, we are nice and full over here. There's nothing, no slack. This is totally full. So I think that the repair I did to add that extra support as well as that extra layer of fabric, I think that really worked out because this feels nice and full and it looks good too. Yeah, that just looks really, really good. It's nice and even. I really like this. Really like it a lot. Well, the job is done, and wow, what a difference that is. Just look at that seat. It looks like brand new. It turned out better than I thought it would. The fit is absolutely excellent. It's nice and tight everywhere. There's no slack at all. I do still have this weird kind of crinkle right here. I feel like that might go away over time as the seat gets broken in, but this area that I reinforced over here, I think is gonna be awesome. It's nice and firm. Absolutely no play. It feels nice. Now, for some reason, looking at the screen on my camera here, the seat kind of looks like it has a greenish hue to it, whereas this looks gray. It doesn't look like that in person. They look very, very similar to my eye, only this seat here looks a little bit lighter, ever so slightly, But in a normal circumstance, when you don't have a video light right there, you're really not going to tell a difference. Like I said, it's probably a 9 out of 10. I mean, it just looks incredible, especially for the money. This thing was like 35 bucks, but it does really highlight how bad the seat back is. I'm gonna have to do something about that. Well, there you go. At this angle, for some reason, the colors seem a little more similar. I'm telling you though, to my eye, they look very, very similar. The cover just looks so good, you'd never tell that that wasn't leather. It even feels like leather. You know, I'm really satisfied overall with this job. I did a lot of new things today. I was able to fix the foam and reinforce it all. Never done anything like that. I was able to use hog rings all over this thing. Never done anything like that. This was overall just a really enjoyable experience. Putting the seat cover on, knowing all of the work that I put into it, that I reinforced everything, and that this is going to last a very long time, and it did not cost a lot of money at all. So what do you guys think? Comment down below and let me know if you would have done the same thing. Now, for those of you who are wondering, yes, this seat is coming right back out because I am going to be shampooing that carpet very soon. That'll be in an upcoming video. But this is yet another step closer to restoring and transforming this 2005 Toyota 4Runner. If you haven't seen the video where I completely replaced the dash cover, check that one out. That one was really good. Now, of course, I still have to go through this entire process on the passenger seat, but in situations like this, I really like filming the first time I do something. That way I can capture all of the hardships and the things that I don't know how to do and that I'm figuring out on camera. And hopefully those things will help you guys or inspire you to get out and do something like this yourself. Man, I am really, really stoked about this. This thing turned out awesome. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And if you've watched this far and you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. I'm Jimmy for One Road, and I will see you in the next one.